So what's up, everybody? My name is Maverick Mike, coined from my community in the simpler trading room called the Stock Mavericks that I trade live every single day, twice a day. Would love to have you on the team. Today we're going to talk about a play that I consistently go after, and I've been playing now all the way back when I first started trading in 2016, and it has done nothing but evolve into a better and better and better version of itself, and that is the first Green Day pattern. Now, with that first Green Day pattern, there's two different styles of them. Today, we're going to talk about one of those styles. If you want to check out my other first Green Day pattern, go check out my past YouTube videos. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, but I'm dropping videos every week to try to educate others, because I'm all about getting rich together. It is not fun being rich alone, is what I always like to say. So the first Green Day that I'm going to go after today is one that happens after stocks are downtrending for a while. And this can help out anybody that is just trying to learn technical analysis in any type of market. You can use this in large stocks, small stocks, options, Bitcoin, altcoins, anything that has stock market movement usually creates emotions, and that's all I'm doing is showing you stocks off emotions. So today we're going to dive in to what I call the first bounce Green Day, and something that really helps people get a little more confident when they are dealing with a downtrending market. So when the QQQ and SPY are downtrending, which right now we've been on a 3-week downtrend recently. And that 3-week downtrend, it might not look bad in the long term of things, where you can see the SPY has been ripping since April. But the one thing I do want to point out is we are in a downtrend. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but we have dropped from 637 down to 600 in the past 3 weeks. And that's freaking people out. And a lot of people would say, where's the bottom? How do I know where the bottom is? And this video is going to help you find that level. Now, for the QQQ and SPY, I'm not really going to dive into those. I'm going to dive into the stuff that I personally love to play and where I've been consistent since all the way back in 2017. And that is small caps, OTC stocks. So let's move on in. So with the small cap stocks, I'm going to go over how I look to find the downtrend. And if you go across the board, I actually just went to Europe for 3 weeks. It was an amazing time to be in Europe, but at the same time it wasn't, because we had tons of stocks that went absolutely nuts. ABAT squeezed from 240 all the way up to 1150. You have RGTI, another quantum stock that we have here, going from 17 to 58. You have QVTS. All across the board, if you look at it, up to 46 from 15. Then we have some AI stocks, SLS, not that big, but 160 to 250. That's a pretty big spike. You have SOUN that came all the way from $10 to 22, and now it's back to 10, which that's a stock we're watching for a turnaround. So as you can see, we're in a downtrend in small caps and penny stocks all across the board the past 3 weeks. So how do I look to take advantage of that next move and that potential turnaround? And there's key spots that I like to point out. So today, that's what we're going to do. There's 2 key levels that I like to always point out in every stock when I'm looking for the turnaround. And we're going to open up ABAT just to show you that example, because ABAT was a stock that I just made 10% on overnight. As you can see here, it pushed from 350 up into that $4, $4.20 spot this morning. Beautiful one day to the next. Now, how did we know to take advantage of that day? Well, if you zoom out and you see this stock has now been downtrending since that big spike to 1150. So if I zoom in, you'll see it's been dropping since then. There has been one other Green Day, but that was after earnings, and I don't like to play on earnings. So other than that, there really hasn't been much. Every day has been on a downtrend. And if I open up to show you the key spots, you can just see it. So let me open up the last 5 days. And how do I know it's on a downtrend? This is my first identification that we're on a downtrend, is if I go back to all the old days, I'm going to set 3 key levels, 3 key lines up every day as I look for these turnarounds. So there is a little bit of work that you have to do, but if you've always wanted to be an artist, this video is for you. You can pull out your Picasso painting and you can start making your drawing. So let me show you the key spots that I like to draw on, and we'll start with this day. So I always like to put the high a day, or I always like to put the high a day in the first 10 minutes. So if the stock spikes in the first 10 minutes, I always like to put that high a day. So that's going to be my line here at high a day, which is 420. I always like to put a line at yesterday's high a day, and then I always like to put a line at yesterday's close. So those are my 3 lines, my Picasso drawings, that I personally like to do to see if this stock is going to turn around. And then the close was right there. And if you're wondering, I'm just pressing a drawing and I'm drawing a line. That's all I'm doing here. And if you look, all 3 of those lines are downtrending, downtrending, downtrending. So we got multiple downtrending. Now the next day, if I do those lines again, you have high day all the way up here, you have close here, and then you have today's high here. It comes right back below that. It never spikes above that. So it's important for you to realize when a stock's in a downtrending mode. Now, how do I notice the turnaround? Here is a key spot. So there's 2 key things that I'm going to go over right now. The first key thing is going to be the 1 year, 1 day chart. I always zoom out and I look at the big picture before I'm going to zoom in. So I start with zooming out and then I'm going to zoom in. On the big picture, I always say the levels that I look for the turnaround, if it hasn't turned around yet, and that's why I have so many alerts down here if you look at it. I like to look at former support levels, which it looks like the first support level would have been here, and it did bounce off of that, but I missed that day. That was an ugly day. So it dropped below that, and whenever support turns into resistance, which you can see this red line here, that's what happened there. That's not a good sign. That's downtrending. So we're continuing that downtrend. Where's that next spot I'm going to look? So the key spots that I like are long-term support spots and former breakouts. The next former breakout after, this $4 spot and this 460 spot would have been down to $3. So that was my first initial plan. I said, hey, if it comes down to $3, I'm going to go after it. And if you look at my weekly watchers, I actually make this every single day, every single Monday morning with my community in the Simpler Trading website. So if you ever wanted to catch us in the Stock Mavericks room, there's a $7 trial right now for Black Friday. So take advantage of that monthly trial for $7. But ABAT, perfect example of what we're looking for. I wanted it to come down to that $3 breakout spot, but if it creates a first green day, it usually follows up, and I say 10% or more. And if it has the right support levels and it's crossing the right lines, we're going to go after it. Well, now let me zoom into that day to show you. The lines are set up. Where are the lines set up? The lines are set up at the first 10-minute high a day, which is 355. It's set up at yesterday's highs, which was 360. And yesterday's close. Let me zoom out a little more, just so you can see those exact levels. And now that's my technical analysis for turnaround. So yesterday's close was 336. Today's highs in the first 10 minutes, 355. And yesterday's highs, 360. You know what's beautiful? Even if you played this breakout, and I was late to it. So if you were early to the party, which you should have been, you're buying 355. You can use, this is cut or this, whatever you want. It's not even a 10%, 5% risk there. And then it boils up a little bit between these 2 lines, and once it takes off above that yesterday's highs, it never comes below that. And I bought it really late in the day at 367 or 375-ish, and it ends up gapping up all the way to 420. But I ended up selling it right in the low 4s. Either way, this was a sign of momentum shift, and usually you get a bigger bounce. But with ABAT, I was more than happy with a 10% gain overnight. And honestly, don't forget, the QQQ and SPY are still downtrending because NVIDIA, one of the biggest companies, the biggest company in the market, is coming out with earnings. So there's a lot of questionable things in the outside market that's kind of hurting these bounces right now. But I still think the farther that these drop, the more excited you should be. I like to explain it like my dog who goes out and he waits for his food. I have a French bulldog, and when he waits for his, like if we're eating tacos or something or anything, you'll see drool just come down and it hangs off of both sides of his mouth. Well, This is what you should be doing in a downtrending market, and you should just be ready. You should just be ready for that next big moment, because it is going to be coming soon. So don't panic in these times. Get excited, lick your chops, get that drool ready, and use these lines to take advantage of that next move. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button or check me out on the Simpler Trading website under the Stock Mavericks team. We got a special $7 trial for a month. Would love to see you guys there. All right, everyone. Stay safe out there and go catch those dips. See ya.